Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place you come to for a shortcut to being well-informed. We're doing a deep dive today into the really high-stakes world of modern business. Specifically, we're looking at how artificial intelligence is just completely rewriting the strategic playbook for 2026. When most people think about AI, they get this picture of like a sci-fi movie robot, something flashy, maybe a little bit scary, but the reality is much quieter. It's more fundamental. Think of AI as the digital worker humming in the background, the one that remembers everything and works 24/7. And right now we are hitting this huge inflection point where that quiet worker is about to get autonomy.
That is exactly right. I mean, if the last few years were all about experimenting with generative AI, just, making content a little bit faster, then 2026 is demanding a profound strategic reset. So our mission today is to explore that decisive shift, the shift from experimental Gen AI to autonomous agentic AI, particularly in marketing and sales. We really have to understand what this means for strategy, for application, and this is the big one, for digital governance.
Okay, before we even get into predictions, we have to nail this definition. Because agentic AI, it isn't just a faster version of what we've been using, is it?
No, not at all. Think of it this way. The predictive AI we're used to, it offers suggestions. It looks at data and tells you what might happen next, or maybe what text you should write. Agentic AI is the leap to action. Salesforce defines it as a smart intelligence that's trained to take action on its own to complete complex, multi-step tasks from start to finish. It's trained to actually do the work.
So if I ask it to send a follow-up email, it's not just going to write a draft and then wait for me to hit send.
Exactly.
It's going to identify the goal, draft the email, find the right person based on that goal, and then actually send it all by itself.
Precisely. That is the difference right there. These systems, they live in what people are calling an agentic layer inside your CRM or other tools. And once you train it on a goal, the agent dynamically figures out all the necessary steps and just finishes the task. No constant human handholding. The key contrast, and this is what Martech points out, is that traditional automation is rules-based. It's static.
Right, it follows a pre-written script.
It follows a script. Agents, on the other hand, are autonomous. They're probabilistic, variable, and adaptive. They decide the best path forward based on what's happening right now.
Okay, so let's unpack why this shift, this move from just generative efficiency to full agentic autonomy. Why it's becoming an imperative so quickly, especially for companies that need to scale.
Well, the business case is just so compelling, especially for startups and SMBs. I mean, if you have a limited number of people but you need way more output, agentic AI is your force multiplier. It works around the clock. It handles all those repeatable but necessary tasks like logging notes, updating sales stages, sending out those very specific follow-up emails. It lets you scale your output with limited resources, which frees up your human team to focus on the high-value, high-touch stuff.
And the analysts are all over this. I saw Forrester, they track these big B2B shifts, and they're saying AI adoption has moved past hype and into what they're now calling hard hat work.
Hard hat work. I like that. It signals serious foundational investment.
It does.
And it is beyond serious in the B2B purchasing world. I mean, Gartner has this truly blockbuster prediction.
Right.
By 2028, a staggering 90% of B2B buying will be AI agent intermediated. That's pushing over $15 trillion of B2B spend through autonomous exchanges.
Whoa, wait. Let's double click on that 15 trillion number for a second. If autonomous agents are doing 90% of the buying, doesn't that just completely change enterprise sales as we know it?
It is the core implication, and it creates a brand new strategic necessity. If the buyer is an AI agent, you can't just optimize your marketing for human eyes anymore. The whole game of visibility changes. And this creates a new focus area that Gartner is calling Agent Engine Optimization, AEO.
AEO. Okay, so like SEO for Google, AEO is about making sure our product specs, our pricing, our capabilities, all of it is structured. So a purchasing agent can find it, understand it, and approve it on its own.
You got it. If a human is scrolling, you need good SEO. But if an autonomous agent is aggregating data, comparing complex feature lists, and making a purchase decision based on very structured criteria, you better be optimized for the agent.
And that also changes what the human marketing team even does. If the machine handles all the production and analysis, what's left for us?
That's the critical pivot. AI is going to dramatically reduce the effort for production and analysis. That efficiency, that's just going to become a commodity. Everybody will have it. The real competitive advantage won't come from making content faster. It's going to come from reinvesting all that freed up human capacity into much bolder strategy and creative work.
But what does bolder strategy even mean in practice? I mean, is this the end of the entry-level analyst job? The person who used to spend all day just logging notes and making spreadsheets?
It means the logistics of content. Writing the draft, translating it, testing 1,000 subject lines, that's all handled by the agent. The human job pivots to the truly complex things, developing the core brand story, managing those difficult human-to-human relationships, and designing that breakthrough creative idea that an algorithm just can't come up with. The team moves from execution to invention.
Okay, let's unpack this with some real, tangible examples of agents doing work. Let's start with the sales cycle. I know the Salesforce sources had some great insights here.
Yeah, let's take sales enablement. A
Yeah.
huge productivity killer is that scramble right before a meeting. You have 5 minutes and you're trying to find all the recent emails, the contract status, the deal risks.
The worst.
The agentic AI just eliminates that. The agent can instantly gather all the context it needs from the CRM, from recent conversations, support tickets, and organize it all into a clear, concise summary. The rep just walks into the call prepared and confident without lifting a finger on the logistics.
And it can help actually close the deal too, right? I heard about using it for dynamic close plans.
Oh, absolutely. Buying decisions are so complex now. You've got finance, legal, IT, all involved. If that close plan isn't perfectly coordinated, the deal just stalls. So this autonomous agent can automatically build a personalized step-by-step roadmap to close an opportunity based on live data. The rep just asks right steps to close this opportunity, and the agent doesn't just list generic stuff. It generates a focused plan. It suggests the next person to contact in legal, highlights missing pipeline elements. It's like having an embedded chief of staff for every single deal.
That is extraordinary. Okay, now let's shift to marketing. The scale that agents can achieve here is just staggering. Thinking about global brand management, content localization.
Exactly. For a global brand, manually tailoring every single piece of content to regional dialects and cultural norms is basically impossible. But these tools, they can adapt content for different languages and markets instantly, all while maintaining the brand's core tone of voice but adjusting for those crucial nuances. This means you can do simultaneous global launches at a speed and a cost that was just unimaginable a few years ago.
But the real power, and I know sources from MailChimp and AWS talk about this, is moving past those simple segments into true one-to-one micro-personalization.
Absolutely. AI moves beyond static demographics like age 35-45 to these dynamic, behavior-driven models. It analyzes purchase history, online interactions, browsing history, even real-time social media stuff to create these incredibly nuanced profiles. This isn't just targeting, it's recognizing individual context. And the result. There was a SurveyMonkey study that found 73% of businesses credit AI with helping them create truly personalized customer experiences.
And we see that personalization happening in real time, especially in advertising. Google Ads Smart Bidding is a perfect example of an agentic system that's already out there.
It's auction time bidding. It runs thousands of decisions every second, optimizing for conversion value in real time. A human team could never do that. And the sheer range of signals the AI processes is fascinating. It's looking at your device, your physical location, and crucially, your location intent.
Okay, I hadn't really thought about location intent before. Can we dwell on that for a second? How does the agent know the difference between intent and just proximity?
The agent knows if you're actively researching Paris vacations, even if you're physically sitting in New York. So you're a high-value target for a Paris tourism ad, regardless of your current GPS coordinates. Then it combines that with the time of day, your remarketing history, and even the actual search query, not just the matching keyword.
Right, so if the query is leather boots, the system knows the intent is totally different than if the query is boot repairs, even if both are tied to the same broad keyword. That's the kind of nuance that really drives ROI.
And that capacity for hyperlocalization drives real, measurable results. I mean, look at that phenomenal PODS case study. They combined generative AI with geolocation to create over 6,000 unique advertising messages.
6,000 unique messages just for 299 different neighborhoods in New York City. It just makes you realize how static our old strategies were.
Yeah, the agent was achieving maximum relevance at a scale that was simply impossible before. And that targeted relevance drove a massive 60% increase in website visits for them, the biggest jump they'd ever seen. The agent handled the massive production. The humans designed the core strategy.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. We've established the immense power of agentic AI, but with all that autonomy comes systemic risk and a crucial need for maturity. The strategic reset for 2026 is being driven by financial necessity, but it can only work if we manage all the friction points.
And that financial push is very real. Analysts are noting that with rising costs in paid channels, 65% of organizations are planning to reinvest in email marketing for 2026, and 52% plan to shift budget from paid toward organic.
And you can't just shift the budget and hope for the best. Before companies can capture those returns with these agentic campaigns, they're hitting some very predictable roadblocks inside their own organizations.
Yeah, Navient identified a few key ones. First is just a lack of strategic vision. So many organizations jump on the hype without identifying where AI will have the most impact. The fix is a detailed AI roadmap with clear, measurable KPIs.
The second big one is insufficient skills. Just underestimating how much training and buy-in you need from the human team.
Right. The training has to be comprehensive. It has to explain what AI is and, just as importantly, what it is not. Dispel the myths and show people how it applies to their new, higher-value roles. And third, you have legacy systems. People see them as a roadblock. But the good news is you don't always need a full overhaul. You can integrate them strategically with custom APIs and middleware.
So addressing those internal issues is critical. But the second you grant these systems autonomy, you run into a massive external challenge: trust and privacy. This is where the risks of the black box become really severe.
The central technical problem is what sources like RAND and OVC call algorithmic opacity. Because these systems operate with so many complex layers, it becomes almost impossible for a human to understand exactly how the data was used or how the agent reached a specific high-stakes decision. The agent can't really show its work.
And if the agent can't show its work, how can a company comply with privacy laws? Or even just guarantee customer trust?
That opacity directly impacts two other huge concerns. The first is data repurposing. This is when data collected for one specific purpose is later used for something else entirely without your knowledge. RAND had this powerful example of digitizing health records to make them easy to transfer between doctors, which is great.
Yeah, clear benefit.
But then those same records could be repurposed by an insurer to automatically determine your medical eligibility for something.
Wow, that's a fundamental privacy problem. And then there's the issue of data just sticking around forever.
Data persistence. Since the cost of storing digital data has basically dropped to zero, even small organizations can store it indefinitely. And once that data gets incorporated into an AI model, it becomes extremely difficult to trace and to delete completely. And this is alarming because privacy preferences change over time, right?
Right.
But the data you consented to share in your early 20s might persist and be used by an agent long after you're gone.
So the regulatory response for 2026 is moving toward mandatory transparency to try and counteract this. This is about operational rigor, not just some abstract theory.
Absolutely. The industry needs operational rigor. The EU AI Act, for example, has transparency rules that mandate any synthetic audio, image, video, or text has to be marked in a machine-readable format. It has to be detectable as artificially generated. This is the era of mandatory deepfake labeling built right into the data itself.
And organizations have to have built-in safety nets for these agents. You can't just set it and forget it.
Yeah, exactly. Beyond just having governance frameworks, you must ensure that AI systems have override and interrupt capabilities. This is a non-negotiable requirement for human oversight. It prevents automation bias. That's our tendency to just trust an automated decision too much by making sure a human can step in if an agent is about to make a big mistake.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, in 2026? We've seen that the pivot to autonomy is, well, it's inevitable. But success is really contingent on maturity and on operational control.
We've landed on three non-negotiable strategic pillars that really have to guide your thinking. First, the future is agentic autonomy, not just faster content. You have to deploy agents that can execute multi-step, goal-oriented processes. It's way beyond just drafting a better email.
Second, to get and grow your budget in this new world, you have to pivot to financial metrics. The days of reporting on impressions are over. CFOs want proof over promises, so you have to focus only on proving incremental revenue, profit ROI, and contribution clarity.
And finally, governance and trust are non-negotiable foundations for scaling AI. You just can't move fast if you're worried about the ethical or regulatory fallout. This means proactively putting in guardrails, mandatory deepfake labeling, and always ensuring human oversight is available through system override capabilities.
That deep focus on persistence and governance raises a final provocative thought for you to mull over. We're entering an age where storing data costs virtually nothing, making it easy to store it forever. Since AI algorithms are constantly repackaging this data to create new insights, what are the long-term implications for your digital identity? What happens when the data you consented to share today and your preferences for how it's used persist and are utilized by autonomous agents long after you're gone? That's the foundational ethical and strategic question the agentic era is forcing us all to answer.